because we've had our grandchildren, well, two of them, all weekend. My youngest son's getting married in November, so he's having a bachelor party. So my oldest son is with him. He's going to be his best man. And so we've had Patrick's wife, Ashley, and also our two granddaughters. It's been a long weekend. As I saw Mary, she was just kind of doing what these. So she's jealous that I escaped. No, we love him. We love him. Thank you. And continue to have, for what he knows, I apologize. I really enjoyed the healing service. I really did. It was nice. And I was sitting there thinking almost every religion should have that before they start a church service. Like get you in the mood to hear, or in the mindset to hear what God, I'm Catholic, so Jesus, Mary, but also in spiritualism, what Spirit is telling us. And it's just nice and quiet in that music. It's just beautiful. So, I guess the title of this talk, Rosie, is Life Continues. You know, when I first was introduced to spiritualism by Annette, she's the one that guided me on my metaphysical journey. I did not discover my gifts until about 7, 8 years ago. And so, in the beginning, I used to do a lot of these psychic fairs and tent things. And I remember it seemed like a good idea at the time, and it still seems like a good idea. I said, I'll do this thing called Zombie Toberfest. You guys ever heard of that? Yeah, it's thought. So, you were smart. So, I set up this tent, and I just asked for a donation. I'll do psychic and mediumship readings, because I am more clairvoyant than anything, but I'm a clairvoyant medium, but there's some psychic to it. And it was raining, and it was like 30, 40 booths, probably 300 to 400 people dressed as zombies. It was absolutely bizarre. Spirit was probably going, what in the world are you doing? But I remember in the beginning it was slow. And I went, well, they're playing classic rock, which I happen to like. At least I get to hear some classic rock music. You know, and then all of a sudden it picked up. And before I know it, there's a line outside the tent. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I'll never forget this. A little old lady waited probably half an hour to talk to me, which I wouldn't even wait a half an hour to talk to me, but she did. She's probably in her 70s, I don't know, maybe 80s. And as she entered and we started talking, I got the image of a little boy, about 5 years old, somewhere about 5, 6. And he keeps saying, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And I said, do you resonate with that? She breaks down crying. When she was about 8 years old, she was supposed to watch her little brother, who was 5 years old. And from what I gathered, he ran out into the street and was hit by a car and was killed. Her parents blamed her. And so she was about 8. So here she is, easily, and I don't guess women's age, but easily mid-late 70s, early 80s. She has lived with that for all of her life. And the closure she got from that, she reached out and hugged me, and I tell you, she sobbed, her whole body was shaking. And so I've looked at the continuity of life that spiritualism does teach, and teach very well. In fact, it teaches it better than other religions. There are over 3,000 religions in the world today, and most of the big ones teach or preach some type of continuity of life. But the bro crush I have, the man crush I have is Richard Rohr. I quote him all the time. He's a Franciscan mystic. I think he's in the last stages of his life. He's fourth bout with cancer, and he's late 70s. And but he always says, you know, he always talks about the continuity of life as it pertains. It's important what we do here, but beyond here is even more important. He is Catholic. He says, believe it or not, I'm still in good standing, because he got in trouble for saying there's physically not a heaven and a hell. He got in a lot of trouble for that. Even though the Catholic Church has kind of come around to that, what he calls the transactional church. You know, churches that have a transaction. You have a problem, I have the solution. You've got to come to me for the solution. And he calls that a transaction. So the transactional church, meaning you're either going to be good, go to heaven, or you're going to be bad and go to hell. Or when I was young, we called it H-E double hockey sticks. We weren't allowed to see the word hell. So you look at the continuity of life, and I look at that old woman who I still think about, and how much it meant to her, and how much it means. I don't do a ton of readings these days. Believe it or not, I've written 2 books, and I don't like books. I have a short attention span when I read a book. So the Spirit says, we need you to write books. I'm going, careful what you ask for, Spirit. But I deal with a lot of people who have lost a loved one to suicide. And they live with that guilt, thinking they could have saved or should have saved or whatever. And the other day, someone asked me a question about where their souls go and so forth. And Spirit said, you need to write a book about that. So that's coming down the road. It's not now, but I just dealt with so many. And the reason I like what spiritualism does about the continuity of life just doesn't say, hey, we're sure they're in heaven. Or this book says they're in heaven. And we know that's not exactly correct. As someone once told me, there was a priest that told me, Jerry, listen, because when I discovered my gifts, I was worried about what the Bible said. He said, Jerry, the Bible is a document of faith with historical references. And if you treat it like that, it makes sense. And I'm going to quote Raphael. I'm going to quote Raphael. I met Raphael here, a couple months ago, and he said, you know, I really understood the Bible after I started going to a spiritualist church. It really came alive for me. And I thought, oh, don't tell the Baptists that, but that's good. But you look at what spiritualism does with the continuity of life. Number one, gives people closure. Closure that be looking for. How can that be bad? How can it be on the dark side? How can it be the work of Satan or the devil or the dark forces? It can't. Not when we give. And you all have metaphysical gifts. They're all developed differently. My wife is an empath and a healer. I'm not an empath. I do a lot of readings with people who are empaths. And I think women are natural born empaths and healers. I really do believe that. Because I found myself going, you know, you're an empath and healer. So it gives people closure. Closure, you know, like, how many times those of you who do readings that people said, I just want to know they're okay. I've been told they're okay. I just want to know they're okay. So they're looking for proof. And for me, I always struggle with spiritualism in terms of the science part. For me, that's the science part. Science doesn't have to be mathematical equations and numbers and everything. It's, 3 different mediums who didn't know each other told me, I was a priest in a former life. When I told my wife that, she almost fainted. She said, what the chances of that? You can't calculate the chances of that. The odds are in the millions that you would calculate that 3 mediums who don't know each other, different parts of the country. Tell me I was a priest in a previous life. Nowhere on my Facebook that says Jerry McDaniel, clairvoyant medium, was a priest in a previous life. I don't know. So nowhere does it say that. Anyway. So it gives us closure. What is the next thing? The continuity of life and what the church here preaches is clarity. Clarity about what happens. What happens on the other side. What happens when people take their own life. It's funny. We hear an awful lot of the Bible says, right? And I'm a big believer in the Bible. But the Bible is it's funny. Richard Rohr taught me that. In the New Testament, where Jesus preaches, he mentions the Bible 4 times. The Old Testament, the Jewish scriptures would make up the Old Testament, were still around. 10 Commandments were around when Jesus was around. He only quotes 2 of the 10 Commandments. So he didn't go around preaching the Bible and 10 Commandments. He went around telling parable stories that people could identify with. And so it gives us some clarity about what happens. especially towards the end of our life. And I think the third thing it gives us is comfort. Comfort that we know this isn't it. Comfort that we know we will see our loved ones. Comfort that we know we'll be reunited with those that we desire to be reunited to. Comfort that we know that, I can't tell you, and those of you who do this work, pets are there. Pets come strolling through, and I don't communicate. I'm not a Caesar Milan type guy, with pet whisper, but pets come through and, I was doing a reading with one of my best friends, Paul, years ago. We were in New Mexico attending a Rich Rohr conference, and those conferences draw, bless you. See, I'm Catholic. It's just automatic. It's just automatic. Those conferences draw 2,000 people, and they're sold out within. Look him up. You'd be amazed. Free meditations, free whatever, free podcast, and he's one of those. I think I've mentioned before. You ever seen the people? You look at the people and you figure God's whispering in their ears, and just out it comes. I'm not one of them. Richard Rohr's one of them, and he just, to people who try so hard, he says, instead of trying harder, surrender more. And he looks at things on a global, on a universal. He says, long before the Bible was around, the Bible of nature was around. And that ties in with the natural laws. The book I got from Marilyn Alter, I can't think the name of it. Something Flow, a river or something. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's it. I have a better title for it. But anyway, that's it. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Marilyn. Yeah, look at, and if you can, take the classes here. I took the Introduction to Spiritualism. I took Introduction to Mediumship, and I took Natural Law. And now Emilio's is doing classes here. Is that correct?
He's doing one right now.
He's doing one right now. So there's classes here, or a class here. Take it and expand. I mean, people who know me all my life kind of look back and go, I've known you all your life. You're now 58. You're now doing this? Well, yeah. And I offended a lot of people. I'll join the therapy group and move on. I didn't do it on purpose. I just know what God's telling me, what Spirit's telling me, what the universe is telling me, right? So I call it the 4 C's, the continuity of life, closure, clarity, and comfort. And these are things, I think, that draw us closer to God. And by closer to infinite intelligence, God doesn't care what you call God, him, her, it. We know it's more of an it. We know it's not a man. I've said this before. Anytime you see a picture of God, he looks like Moses. I'm sure Moses is up there going, people think I'm God. God's like, knock it off, Moses. But every time you see a picture of God, it's a picture of Moses. It's not a picture of God. God is energy. God is everywhere. Not up there, here, everywhere. Just like you two people who are so, I'm getting goosebumps. Are you two related in any way?
What?
We just had a really nice metaphysical short conversation.
Okay.
I'm a medium. She's a healer.
Oh man, there's so much energy between you two. Holy gosh.
Wow.
Okay, because, hey, I'm not Dr. Phil. I'm not trying to hook up anybody here. I just said there was energy between you two. All right. I once told Mary, I said, I was doing a reading. And those of you who know Mary, you know Mary very well. You know Mary very well. You're one of Mary's best friends. I said, this person was asking for marital advice. I told her while she was eating, she almost choked. She said, they asked you for marital advice? Yeah. What'd you tell them? I'm not the guy to offer marital advice. Good, because I got some marital advice for you. It's an honor being here. It really is an honor. It's an honor giving back. And you got to give back your gifts, you know. It's funny, I had a radio show for a while. I was on 96.5, news, weather, traffic. They're now Hispanic or Latino, so it's changed. It was a J-Mac medium show, and I had it, and it's amazing, this. And, it takes me time to give a message. It won't today, whoever gives a message, you want to give a message, you can, because I love it when that does it, but I can do it as well. But, and that moves quicker than I do. I met this one gentleman wanted to talk to us. You know, I would do it, and in front of me was a blank screen. On the right was a text, people screaming, "Where is Clark Howard?" You know, because I took up Clark Howard's Thursday night spot. Where's Clark Howard? I mean, they were in capital letters with a lot of exclamation points. And over here was the people calling if they just wanted to generate. This gentleman wanted to generate. And I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll take your call off the air." So I went to the next studio, and he was holding it. I said, "I don't know if it's him, but I see a skateboard, long hair, but I just don't know if it's him. I'm not going to presume or connect the dots." You could hear him crying. You can't tell me those gifts that we all have, those metaphysical gifts that some have been buried for a while, are not the work of God. It offers people closure, clarity, and comfort. By the way, I used one of your pads, so I talked out. I promise I'll get back to him. So anyway, I thank you for attending. I told you I'd stop it right at 25 till. I gave it 2 or 3 extra minutes. Yes. Any Florida State fans here? Anybody follow college football? I'm going to say my condolences. They lost on last play of the game. Anyway, has nothing to do with spiritualism. Just couple. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming here. And this is sanctuary. You know, this is sacred ground, right? This is where you can come and you're not ostracized because of the gifts you have. You're not. You come in. You're part of the community. You're part of a group. You're part of a larger thing, larger than ourselves. You get it. Now it's time for us to talk to people about what you get. Your gifts. I say this always. You could be the only face of metaphysical gifts someone will ever see. And it doesn't mean, as a medium, you walk up and say, "Hi, by the way, your dead grandmother says hi." You don't have that conversation in Chick-fil-A, okay? Trust me, I tried it once. It didn't work well. But we've got to tell people, one of the reasons I'm still Catholic is Emilio's spirit guide, Serafina, said, you need to remain Catholic. So these gifts are visible to Catholics. Push back on this stuff. I said, okay. Look, it's 25 after. Bam. Anyway, thank you very much for being here. God bless you. And you got a ceremony coming up, right?
Yes, we do.